Welcome to the Impact Lounge. Feel the sound. Legends in the ring making moves all around. We got the fire, the heart, the stories untold. This is our moment. Watch the magic unfold. Welcome to the Impact Lounge, where we reign. Kings and queens of the ring breaking chains. We taking wrestling to a whole new height. Under bright lights, we ignite the fight. Genesis to rebellion. The crowd still chanting. Welcome to the Impact Lounge. Feel the sound. Legends in the ring making moves all around. We got the fire, the heart, the stories untold.
What's up, everybody? Your boy BQ. It's Genesis night, TNA Genesis 2025. Rare live stream brought by your boy BQ, but I try to make sure that I live stream after every major pay-per-view. And my opinions on TNA Genesis this year is that I think this was the best pay-per-view since I've covered the company. Now, yeah, there's a little bit of recency bias there because I just finished watching the show. I'm not sure what else I would compare it to. There's been a lot of pay-per-views over the years that I've liked quite a bit. Some that I've been like, I thought from the opening bell to the very last moment of the show, I thought this was the best pay-per-view that they possibly put on since in the 9 years of me doing this. The overall presentation of the show, the feel from the crowd, it looked like it I shed a tear of how professional this show looked. I've been asking, begging, pleading for forever now, for them to step up production value, to look more like NXT than you do like MLW. Lucky Charm. I'm gonna I'm gonna address this one thing. I was so shocked that Spitfire retained. You should have seen the anger that came over me when that happened. But to go back to what I was saying, just looked really big time. This show, if you watch this show, there's no difference than watching an AEW pay-per-view. Obviously, WWE is still much bigger than this, but the best comparison you can make as far as the next level up is NXT or AEW. I mean, it was like you were watching one of those shows. It was it was incredible. We had a lot of people at Slammiversary, okay, but the production quality of Slammiversary was so poor. And I didn't really like the venue. I didn't like that it was set up, and I didn't feel like it looked like there was as many people as there actually were. Even though this venue was a little similar, like if you're just looking at the crowd, there's kind of like a wall. It's still, they were doing so many camera shots and panning of the crowd. You're like, holy shit. And it's I tell you, ever since I started covering the company, I get the question once or twice a month. Someone always shoots it to me in a DM. Do you think TNA will ever get back to where they used to be? And I've always very convincingly said no. I preface that with saying I hope that they do. I want them to, but I've never saw that path to getting anywhere near that. They had that LOL TNA stank just on them for so long. Incompetent people in charge. Just, and then we sat through 3 years of the production quality and all that. And it just never felt like we were going to get there. And I'm really starting to change my stance on there. We're never going to get to like 2 million viewers. Don't get me wrong. But as far as, you call me crazy for saying this. I think the potential is there for them to actually overtake AEW within 3 years as far as like the number one alternative. They're not going to be as profitable. They're not going to bring in the kind of money. They're not going to have that kind of TV deal. But with the WWE partnership, the potential was there for it to at least be the alternative, because AEW is no longer the alternative. It was for a long time. Now people are just not enjoying it. The show kind of keeps progressively getting worse. TNA is progressively getting better. And more people are giving it a chance. And they've got the WWE rub now. They are giving permission to the fan base to watch TNA, because for years, remember, they wouldn't even acknowledge him on TV. They would, they got AJ Styles. They pretended like he was a rookie, that and then at one point they started talking about, oh, well, you were in Ring of Honor and you were this, but they always ignore TNA, right? Like they did that for so long, and something that simple can make the fan base turn on a company. You kind of see it with AEW a little bit because this partnership is done as an FU to AEW, right? It's acting like this is the only other company out there worth working with, worth partnering with. So I think with the rub, um, it's going to require getting off Access TV. I don't think they're going to they're going to get a deal that's like TNT, TBS. I'd be shocked if that happened, but partnering with WWE will allow them to have sit downs with television companies and that won't even listen to Tony Khan. They won't even have a cup of coffee with Tony Khan. You know what I'm saying? Like WWE is going to open doors that, frankly, TNA has never been able to walk through before. So I'm very hopeful, folks. Very, very hopeful and very optimistic that within 3 years, this might be the alternative. Now I don't know what the partnership is going to look like if that's what happens, because at that point they're going to start becoming competitors again. But that's so far down the line. Someone here was asking about PCO. Several people are asking about PCO here. I'm glad he did that. I'm not a PCO fan. I like his character. My kids always liked his character. Am I a fan of his personally? No. What I've always said on my podcast was that anyone who feuds with PCO always comes out worse. They always come out on the worst end of it. He never loses. Whoever he wrestles gets knocked down in the card, towards irrelevancy. So I have no problem with him being gone. I've been preaching since PCO is now my favorite though, because I've been preaching ever since probably a month after that Digital Media Championship came out. Please get rid of this title. Like I like the Grand Championship better than that thing. And he destroyed it tonight at was maybe a GCW or something. I don't know what it was. Some garbage promotion. I don't mean garbage like talking down to it. I think it's just some like outlaw freaking indie whatever shit. So I think he lit it on fire. I don't know what he did. I didn't see the video. I just kind of saw pictures. I couldn't really tell what he was doing. I am glad the title's gone. Maybe now. Okay, Rye Black here says it was GCW. So maybe now we can finally have a legitimate mid-card title. If it doesn't happen now, it's never going to happen, because whatever they introduce to replace it, we're gonna have for at least 3, 4, 5 years. So man, hopefully we have something that people in the middle can fight over, because I've been saying this like for so long. He smashed it with a sledgehammer. Okay. I've been saying this for so long that there's too many people on the roster fighting for nothing. At first, the Digital Media Championship came out. It was kind of a lower to mid card title. It was kind of a intergender title. And then they said, we're going to have matches on Twitter and we're going to have exclusives and do the digital exclusives, all sorts of stuff. And they did none of that. And other than it being kind of a nice looking title, it's been a complete waste of our time. I hear that some people are saying that X Division is the mid card championship. Yeah, it is, but I still view it, and even though Moose is a champion right now, I still view it as a cruiserweight, lightweight championship. Like I don't see it as a mid card. Like you win the X Division championship, the next level up is the world title. Like I don't get that. I still get it as like we open the show with X Division championship. You know what I mean? I don't get it. I don't get it like that. But yeah, the Digital Media Championship was a Scott D'Amore thing, and they're getting rid of Scott D'Amore thing. So I thought that this was the year that we were finally going to get rid of it, and they're doing it top of the year. You notice he didn't get rid of that other championship that he had, that the one that AJ Francis bought. You notice that was nowhere to be seen. So maybe that becomes the other title. There's going to be some kind of other title. There has to be. I just don't think it can just be the X Division and World Championship. Let's go through a couple of comments here and then we'll get into the show. But the first meme gimmick world champion, Orange Cassidy almost had it. Look, this I've been saying this about Joe Hendry. Like I don't dislike him by any means, but I don't like him like that. Like the popularity level that he hit, like he doesn't do that for me at all. He's a mid carder to me. He's a popular mid carder, and I've been saying this for a couple months now. I think his run is going to be, and I don't think it's going to be as good as people think it's going to be. And I'll get into it more when the show rolls around. The tunnel was gone too. I didn't notice that. I learned from TNA over this past week that the tunnels that our AEW uses are actually the old TNA tunnels. So Scott fired whoever the prop guy was when he got on with Anthem, and then that prop guy got hired by AEW, and those are the TNA tunnels. But I don't know. I think tonight it was just for a different feel for the pay per view. I think that's all it was. I'm pretty sure when they get back to the episode, we'll get back to it. see what else we got. I need to take a drink here. Sorry, folks. What else we got here? Did Josh really say he quit TNA? We'll see. We'll see if that's what happens. His contract actually isn't up until the middle of February, so he's not necessarily wrapped up. Like he could be on the next episode, so it's very possible. But Josh just wants to test free agency. That's all this is. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he's like gone. He very well could return. I don't think what he thinks out there for free agency exists for him. Because you got to think, what would AEW do with him? Probably nothing. Could he fit on the NXT show? I don't know. But then at that point, you might as well stay in TNA and you can wrestle on NXT. So I don't know. I do believe he is leaving for a period of time, though. I don't think that it's going to be. I wouldn't be shocked if it wasn't permanent, though. I mean, if it was permanent, I wouldn't. Let's get up. I don't know what I'm trying to say there. I'm saying if he comes back, I wouldn't be surprised. There we go. TNA needs a clean house. That is going to happen to an extent. All these rumors that are floating out there that they're asking people to take pay cuts for budgetary reasons, like because that's not what it is. I've been saying on a few of my podcasts, they just want to be able to pay people at the bottom a little bit more, and they're trying to spend more wisely. That's the best way that I can put it. But they also want the people at the bottom to benefit a little more for being signed. Let's see. What's your opinion on the crowd reaction for Tessa tonight? I heard at one point they were chanting she was racist. She had some heat, though. But there was a lot of supporters in the crowd too. There were signs for her and everything. I'm a big fan of hers personally, so I'm happy to see her back. Joe Hendry, not a meme, just knows how to market himself and his brand. Yes, he does. I don't agree that he's a meme, but he's a mid carder to me. That I'll just say that about him. But yeah, he does know everything he accomplished here was his own doing. Like the popularity that he reached was his own doing, his own marketing. It was nothing that TNA did for him. They were obviously part of the process later on, but initially they had absolutely nothing to do with it. TW in the place to be says, that's not the one I meant to hit. He said TK would sign him just to make a splash. It's possible because TK is operating with a sense of desperation right now. So, I wouldn't be surprised if he did it. So let's get into the show though. Let's talk the actual Genesis show. As I said when I kicked off here, I thought this was the best pay-per-view they've done since I've covered the show. Was it a home run from like every single match? No. There was a couple that I could have done without. But for the most part, I thought it was the best show. It flowed very, very well. You can tell there was some TW can probably, because I see him in the chat here, you can probably confirm this a little bit, but it seemed like the flow was a little more reminiscent of a WWE pay-per-view or an NXT pay-per-view. It just had a completely different flow to it. It did not, the way that they lined it, they set the matches up tonight, it did not. Um, how can I explain this? We have these pay per views where it will have like these two really good matches, and then we'll have this like third match that just kind of slows down the show, and then the fourth match maybe kind of slows it down, and then we don't get the energy back. Like the energy was pretty consistent throughout the show. The flow made sense. As someone who used to do music and have to put together albums, like you want to lay out your song like artists do this, the opening song has to have this kind of vibe, and they have to continue they have to make the vibe such that you can listen to the album all the way through, and then nothing just like doesn't, kind of struggling with what I'm trying to say. I want it to flow all the way through, and you don't want to have a track in there that just like doesn't fit and it just, stands out. You kind of want that when you're laying out a wrestling card too. And I just thought the overall flow of this was very good. Let's talk the beginning though. They had a panel, and the panel was hosted by Gia Miller. I'll get to the sound bites on these people later, but Gia Miller hosted the panel. Dave LaGreca, who I think is a little cringe, but whatever, he was on there. Who else was on there? Mark Henry. That one definitely caught me off guard. And then Tommy Dreamer, because Tommy is a draw, right? So they had to get him on there as well. They've never done anything like this before. I shouldn't say that. They did it Slammiversary 2020, maybe. They kind of did something like that. They flirted with it before. Someone asked if I put this over Slammiversary 2018. Yeah, I think so. For me, at least. Maybe if I go back and watch that, I might change my mind. There is recency bias, like I said, but I thought this was very, very good. But they did a panel to kick off the show, and that was just something different that we just, again, really haven't really seen in a while. Gia Miller is in her element when she does this. I think her backstage interviews are not that good. I think she's a little robotic. But when you see her when in an element like this, she's really loose. She is not scripted. She's able to show her personality a little bit more, her sense of humor. When she does commentary on Explosion, it's the same thing. Like she's very, very loose. So I like her in a role like this. I'm hoping that Mackenzie Mitchell, who we saw tonight doing the ring announcing, I hope that she does the backstage stuff too. I think that would kick the show up a notch, and I hope that they find a different role for Gia Miller. For me, it's not it. The backstage interviews are not it for her. But this is putting her in an environment like this, I think I think she does a very, very good job. So it was different. It was a little boring for me listening to them talk, but it was something different and it was cool. So they were talking, and then all of a sudden we get the return of Ariana Grace.
I'm sorry that people are so jealous of me, but I can't help it that I'm popular.
The liaison. I thought we were never going to see her on screen again, but sure enough, we did. She is back, and she was playing the NXT liaison role for a little while, and when Jordan was doing her open challenges, and she was bringing girls over and all that. And then we get Ashanti the Adonis comes out, and I'm not familiar enough with him to know if he's like a jobber or not. I know he was with Hit Row and all that. I'm pretty sure he is a jobber by the way they used him here, but he came out. I actually did not recognize him looking at him. I wasn't exactly sure who he is. I watched some WWE pay-per-views, but as far as like the Raw and the SmackDown product, even NXT, I don't know a whole lot about. NXT, I will tune in if there's something I like, but for the most part, I don't really watch it. So we kind of got an impromptu match here because he issued an open challenge, and it was answered by Naked Jake something.
You mind if I slip into something more comfortable?
So if you guys have short-term memory, Jake something is a heel, and he came out acting as babyface as ever, like he has in the past. But he's a heel. Him and Hammerstone are a heel tag team. We know Hammerstone's out for a little bit, but this felt a little bit random for me. The match didn't last very long. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it, to be honest. But Jake something won the match. And then we kick off for the with the match that was announced for the countdown to Genesis. Frankie Kazarian, King of the Block Party.
It's a block party. I'm not playing with y'all, bro.
You are not a real TNA fan if he hasn't blocked you on Twitter. And he took on Leon Slater.
Who?
Leon Slater. And I'm going to be totally honest with you. I saw about 10 seconds of this match. I just personally got busy with something, and I didn't want to pause it because I didn't want to be behind on the show because I'm involved with live chats and texting and all that. I just didn't want to fall back in the show. So I was not able to watch it. I know that Frankie Kazarian won, and I think JDC got involved. I think he was on commentary, right? Johnny Dango Curtis.
These are spirit fingers, and these are gold.
I don't know exactly how he got involved because I've always expected whatever happened here was going to continue. They have like a mini feud. I didn't think it was going to end tonight. I thought it was going to kind of continue. So Frankie got the win, and that was that. So we kick off at this point into the actual Genesis pay-per-view. And we kick off. Matt Raywall lets us know that the X Division is not about weight limits. It's about no limits.
The limit does not exist.
This started with Ace Austin.
Is this your card?
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It's not, is it?
No.
And he took on the X Division champion Moose.
Damn you, Moose.
Accompanied by Alicia Edwards.
Hey, baby.
Very good opening match. I think the general TNA population, the fan base, feels that Leon Slater is the one who's going to take the title off Moose down the road. I think Ace Austin actually needs to be that guy. It's now or never for Ace Austin. I think he should have been elevated a long time ago, but they kind of threw him in a tag team division with Chris Bay. He can be a major baby face going forward. I thought they rushed this a little bit as far as giving him an X Division title shot, but maybe they feel that that's just part of the story and that down the road he can win it. But Moose debuts the new championship to kick off the show. And usually when a champion does that, that actually foreshadows that we know they're going to win the match. I don't think in wrestling history we've ever had someone come out with their own custom championship belt and then lose it that night. That just doesn't really happen. So with that being said, you just kind of knew Moose was going to win the match. The energy for this match was just incredible because I didn't feel the energy in the pre-show. Again, I said I only watched a little bit of Leon Slater and Frankie Kazarian. I was watching Jake Something versus Ashanti the Adonis. But I wasn't getting that energy. I kind of got a pre-show energy. This kicked off and the crowd was so loud and so engaged. It was like watching a different company than what we've seen the last several years. And I give Hannafin a really hard time on commentary a lot. I mean, for the record, the only good person on commentary to me in wrestling is Ian Riccaboni. Everyone else sucks. That's just how I am. So sorry. I gave Hannafin a really hard time a lot. He does better in an environment like this where there's like a lot of energy around him and it's loud and he doesn't talk in the Tom Hannafin voice so much. He like kind of starts using his actual voice and he's being a little more organic to what's going on rather than kind of forcing it. So I thought him and Raywall actually did a pretty good job with the pay-per-view. I thought that there was towards the end of the match here because the system gets involved. You know, they do for every match, right? So the system comes down, and then there was a point where Ace Austin got on the. Oh, by the way, the spot where he did the freaking fold on the outside was great. But anyway, a spot toward the end of the match, Ace Austin jumps over off the second rope, catches a spear, kicks out. I thought that should have been the finish because I already had a pretty good feeling that in the main event of the show, they were going to kick out of each other's finishers. So to kick off the show, I don't think Moose should have had his spear kicked out of, you know, in the beginning, when you like have your first match of the show, you know, you can't do something that you're going to do later in the night. So I don't think he should have kicked out of that spear. I thought it took the unpredictability out of the match. Then there was another spot where Moose spears him in the lower back and then gets up and spears him again. At that point, it's a cold finish to me. That is like AEW has that issue where I know that even though I don't watch it as much now. I know that because I listen to people who cover it, where you have this spot that really should be the finish, but they kick out and then they kind of pussyfoot around for a couple more minutes and then hit their finish. And at that point, it's a cold finish, you know. So I thought the first spear just should have been it. So as I said, the system ran out in this match, and I'm talking about Eddie Edwards.
All right, son, I'm gonna need those 2 hams back.
I don't have any hams.
Lift up your shirt, son.
And Brian Myers.
What is she gonna think when she comes in here? Oh, look, he's got a billion toys.
So as soon as this match is over, the music hits of Steve Macklin, which is very good music, by the way. I thought his old thing was cool in his old entrance, but this is really, really good. But the music hits Steve Macklin. And King of the Raw Raw and star of the hit TV show Vinyl Obsession, Eric Young.
I think those times are like the rah speeches and like getting everybody up, because like nobody really get motivated off that stuff anyway.
And when I'm talking about the flow of the show, these guys come out, you know, the system runs out, they're already in the ring, the music hits, and it was really badass the way they came out. They had matching jackets and everything. Steve Macklin got badass music. They come out and we just got the match right then and there. We just went from, you know, one really good match into another match. The opening wasn't so crazy that it you know took all the energy out of the show or took all the energy out of the viewer. Like the crowd still remained hot. The match didn't go too long, so they were able to just go right into it seamlessly, and people were into it. This was one of the matches I wasn't looking forward to on the show just because I feel like we've seen it 20 times, which is not really true, but we just, you know, they did a 6-man tag not too long ago. They had JDC in there and Jonathan Gresham, you know, like it was just one of those matches where you kind of feel like you've seen it before. But overall, I thought the tag team match was very good. I still think that they're going to break up eventually. I think there's an Eric Young heel turn coming down the road. I feel pretty confident in that, but I was thinking it was going to probably happen sooner than later. I like what these guys are doing as a tag team. Eric Young and Macklin together as a team. They have something special. And even though I do expect them to turn at some point, Eric Young, I think they got to keep this going, because putting these two against the Hardys, even though we're talking babyface versus babyface, like that's a good match. You know, that's a great pay-per-view match right there that I think people would really want to see. So, but the right team won here, Steve Macklin and Eric Young. Steve Macklin hit a pretty solid KIA, and then got the win. So, I mentioned it briefly, but Mackenzie Mitchell is the ring announcer. I was told by TNA maybe like a week and a half ago that not Mackenzie, but that we were going to get the new ring announcer at Genesis. Hannafin called her the ring announcer for tonight. So I don't know if it was just kind of poor wording. I really hope she's not like just did tonight and then it's going to be someone else for the TV tapings. So I thought she did a pretty good job. There were some ring entrances that she did better than others. There were some that she sounded like a female Dave Penzer, you know, but for the most part, I thought she did a good job. She did, she did the Lucha Underground versus Impact show. She filled in on an episode of Impact back in the day when I think Jeremy Borash was the ring announcer, and I think storyline wise, I think this is when he's feuding with Josh Matthews. I think storyline wise, he got taken out, and then Mackenzie Mitchell did the rest of the show. I think she used to do the NXT house shows as well. So she has a little bit of ring announcing experience. This isn't out of left field for her. She's not a full-timer doing it, but I thought she did a pretty solid job. And I think if we keep her around, I think she will continue to do better and better. So what do we get after this? So after this, we had the personal concierge.
That's my dad. But don't worry, he's cool.
Really? He doesn't look cool.
And he announces Ash by Elegance.
Come on, Teddy. Come on, Teddy.
And Heather by Elegance.
He has an erection.
Yeah. It's all her fault.
They came out dressed like Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. And at first I was a little confused because I said these are the heels here in the match. you were trying to babyface yourselves to the crowd. Tom Hannafin, who's an obvious sports fan, he said something like, I don't remember. He threw a jab at I don't know what his team is, but he definitely threw a jab at the Cowboys. I think he said they're the most irrelevant team in the NFC East. Oh! So, but yeah, they came out and they challenged the tag team champion Spitfire.
Tell me right now that I'm just a job. Tell me to my face.
You're just a job.
So, this was the first match of the night where people were like, okay, this isn't that good. I actually disagree. I thought this was one of the better knockouts tag team matches that we've had in a little while. I think Ash and Heather are entertaining. Ash by herself was a little cringe, but Heather Heather like really seamlessly has slid into this role as the sidekick of Ash, and she does a really good job. And she adding her to the act has made it to me funnier than it has cringe. You know what I mean? So I really wanted Ash and Heather to win, and I was pretty confident they were until they did that pre-celebration. And then I got kind of worried, and I'm like, as great as they would for them for the sake of heat to do that pre-celebration type of thing on the episode, like, hey, we're already the champions, and then go on to win. You know, for me, that would have been excellent booking and building a strong heel tag team. Booking like TNA, though, they're not going to make Spitfire look stupid. You know what I mean? They're not going to have the Elegance brand on the episode saying, hey, we're already the champions, and then go on to win. Like, they just don't do that. TNA is not a company that makes fun of their baby faces. Baby faces typically get the comeuppance in all the feuds in one way or another. So at that point, I'm kind of like, shit, I think Spitfire is going to win. I'm not a Spitfire fan, folks, if this is your first time listening to me. I think they are I think they're the most bland tag team champions that we've ever had. I'm not saying they're not like good. They are talented wrestlers. Jody Threat's mic skills are god awful. Danny Luna's aren't too bad. I'm just not a fan of theirs. If you go back ever since they brought back the titles, if you look at Vexed, if you look at the inspiration, if you look at the influence, if you look at even Decay, even though they were kind of transitional champions, you look at the people who just held the titles, like, they don't pass the sniff test to me. Like, they don't stand up to these teams. They don't have that same level of entertainment to me. And I think it's run their course. They have run their course as the titles, as the champions. I mean, I'm sorry. They have run their course as the champions. They've run their course holding the titles. What was the point of this? Because they have wrestled Ash and Heather in one-on-one matches. I think there was like 6 total matches between Bound for Glory and now. It was something crazy. Because I remember Hannafin saying, oh, they're tied up at 2 apiece right now, or it's 3-2 or some shit like that. I mean, they were wrestling. There was I think a 8 knockouts tag. Like, I mean, these girls have been wrestling each other forever. Are they just going to continue? Like, Spitfire's just going to be I mean, there's only one team for them to feud with, and it's Ash and Heather, who are clearly going to be the champions at one point. So I just don't understand why they didn't win them here. Actually, I do kind of understand. I think because they were putting Joe Hendry over in the main event, that they wanted to reserve all title changes for that moment. You know, I don't think they wanted to make it a night about title changes because they wanted Joe Hendry winning in the end to be a really, really big deal. I think you still could have changed Knockouts tag team titles to new people. And I don't think anyone would have thought twice about it. I don't think that would have taken anything away from Joe Hendry winning winning later in the night. So I was very disappointed with the outcome, but I thought the match was actually pretty good. I thought they worked very, very hard. This was a Danny Luna showcase match. She had some deadlift Germans, and I mean, she had the one where she was standing on the ropes, and she, granted, she was suplexing Heather, who's very, very tiny, but you know what I mean? Like, she was doing some really impressive power stuff, because they always call her the power wrestler or the power of Spitfire. but she never does that many power moves. You know what I mean? Like she really showed off this episode. So I thought Spitfire did raise their stock. It's just of all the tag teams, because most of the women tag teams don't last that long. Like of all the ones to just commit to, this is just a weird team to commit to for me. I do expect Ash and Heather to win by the next time they wrestle. All I'm thinking is they have to be like dragging these things out. They're like, okay, we have no tag team, so we have to drag it out. That's the only thing that makes any sense to me. But with the NXT partnership, NXT has a very good women's division, and I ultimately think that that's going to be the first NXT wrestler to hold a TNA title. I think it's going to be the women holding the Knockouts tag team championships. That makes the most sense to me. So I think that's where they're going to do. So we kept this going with Spitfire again. They win the match. We keep this going with the Knockouts. Tessa Blanchard.
Oh, I don't like this. That if the Nuggets don't win this,
taking on Jordan Grace. I don't know if I like Jordan's new hair. She looks like Gia Miller. Like she came out and I was like, is Gia Miller going to wrestle in this match? So I want to say this about Jordan Grace first. I guess tonight was her last night in the company. She's the best knockout in the history of TNA. She's better than Gail Kim. She's better than Awesome Kong. She's better than Mickie James. You can throw whatever name out there. She is better. Gail Kim may ultimately have more in the way of maybe not pop culture, but to the average wrestling fan, they're probably always going to know Gail Kim more than they know Jordan Grace. And I think Gail Kim is a legend, but I think Jordan Grace ultimately will go down as the best knockout we've ever seen. I don't think she's the best champion. I would give Gail Kim the best champion or Deonna Purrazzo. Like what I've been saying about Deonna Purrazzo is that it wasn't always obvious she was going to win. You know, like you knew she was the best wrestler in the company, but it was like, and I'm not saying she was beatable either, but you know, it wasn't always a foregone conclusion she's going to win. Like Jordan Grace is the champion. You know, half of these title runs, you're like, well, she's going to win. You just know that she is. This last year had a lot of matches that meant nothing. She had one feud the entire year, and that was with Ash by Elegance. If you want to call her 1 week storyline with Masha Slamovich a feud, you know, you can call it you can call it that. But like for the most part, as far as a real actual story, it was the Ash by Elegance thing. Everything else was open challenges, wrestling nobodies. You know, so as a champion, I will look at her fondly, but I'll look back at like the Deonna Purrazzo championship runs, maybe even Mickie James, but Gail Kim. Like I'll look at those more fondly. But yeah, as far as like the greatest knockout in the history, like I don't even want to hear Jordan's one of the greatest. Like this is the greatest. Like she never put on a bad performance ever, you know. And she remained very committed to the company. There was times where she had at one point said, "Oh, I would like to wrestle for NXT one day," and I think that was just more posturing on her end for contract negotiations. But other than that, she remained very, very committed, and I would imagine it's actually very difficult for her to leave the company. I think she probably doesn't want to go, but kind of knows she has to, because what else is she going to do at this point? Like she won everything. You know, it got to the point where she would have to win the world title to justify keeping her around. And I mean the men's world title, you know. So anyway, this match with Jordan, I'll miss Jordan's theme song, by the way. It's one of the best themes to me. This match with Tessa and Jordan, this was just as I said, as far as the pay-per-view being the best that I can remember, this was the best knockouts match I can remember. There's many of you who probably say, no, I prefer Masha and Jordan. And that's your prerogative. Like, absolutely. That you can 100% make an argument for that. You might say, well, not Deonna and Jordan, because they had some real classics. You can say that too. But I'm going to look at this one with the energy of the crowd and just the quality of the show and just the overall feel of the pay-per-view and the level of heat that they had here. You know, because they had some run-ins over the last couple months, Jordan never got the upper hand on Tessa. You know, that's not, and that's how you kind of keep heat alive. There's been a lot of feuds that TNA does where it's like 1 week, I guess every wrestling company does this. 1 week, the heel gets over. The next, the baby face gets them back, and it's back and forth. And the heat, the more you do that, it like dilutes the heat. There's so much heat in this. Jordan really played her role well on Twitter. Probably believed a lot of what she was saying. Like there's probably realism in what she was saying. It wasn't just, an act. But you could feel that like they didn't like each other in this match. You know what I mean? There's too many matches in TNA that they kind of manufacture heat, but you look at it and you're like, they're probably hanging out after the match, like Eddie Edwards when he was challenging Josh Alexander for the world title once upon a time. It's like they probably went and had a beer after the match. Like you can pretend to have heat, but you can tell the people are friends. You know what I'm saying? And with here, I felt like there was some genuine heat between the two. And I think a lot of the reason I enjoy the pay-per-view in general is because over the course of like 3 weeks, they built this pay-per-view pretty good as far as animosity between the wrestlers. They weren't just like randomly thrown into matches against each other. Like Hard to Kill last year, even though we got Hammerstone on there and shit like that, the matches were just thrown together. Josh versus Hammerstone was just two guys wrestling. And that was a lot of the card, unfortunately. And then Rebellion rolled around, and it wasn't that much different. They built Genesis very well in the course of 3 weeks in a way that I've never seen them build a pay-per-view. But the level of heat they were able to get between Jordan and Tessa, the heat they got between Santana and Josh Alexander, they got a little bit of heat between the system and Macklin and Eric Young. It was a little manufactured, but that wasn't too bad. They got there a little bit it was a weird match, but Rosemary and Masha. And I feel like there was one other match. Maybe when I get to it, it'll come to me. But I thought they just did a good job putting this together. But this match here, Tessa versus Jordan, to me, I cannot remember a better knockouts match than this. There's a lot that are up there. The only missteps was Tessa was really struggling trying to get that fucking turnbuckle pad off. She had to get 2 of them off. She only successfully got 1 off. The other, she just couldn't. It just wasn't happening. And there was a part, I don't know how many of you guys picked up on this. So the bottom turnbuckle pad that she was supposed to, they were doing some kind of move. I think Jordan might have been trying to put her in a backslide or something like that. I don't remember the exact move, but it was clearly that was the spot where Jordan's head was supposed to hit the turnbuckle, but they kind of botched it a little. But a botch between Jordan and Tessa is almost undetectable. This isn't like if Ash by Elegance botched against Jody Thread. It would be clear as freaking day, right? A match with 2 girls like this it's almost undetectable. But I think they botched it a little bit, and they were able to wrestle for the next like 20 seconds and completely rework the spot and still got their desired result to where she took the buzzsaw DDT into the bottom rope. But I think it happened about 30 seconds later than it was supposed to. But they just did such a good job of playing it off and just going to a completely different moveset and getting back to the desired result. I thought the Magnum at the end looked good. And Tessa came off like a star here because she hasn't been overexposed. She just comes out for her little segments. She's kind of talked a little bit for the most part. Like she's, we haven't seen her wrestle in a long time. So this just felt so fresh, I mean, obviously it was their first time wrestling, but just, I really enjoyed this. We knew Tessa was going to win. I think she's going to have a hell of a feud with Masha Slamovich at one point. I think she's going to get the title off Masha, don't get me wrong, but I think Masha's going to do some stuff, seems like with NXT here for a little bit. I don't know who Tessa can feud with. I could see them like throwing Xia Brookside at her for a little bit. I mean, I don't think it's going to be like best of 3 rubber match series or anything like that, the Xia Brookside special. But I could see her, uh, the next TNA Plus show rolls around and she wrestles Zaya Brookside. And then they bring someone else in. I mean, I can see them wasting time with Tessa a little bit. You know, I think they need to make her a bit of a special attraction, though. I wouldn't just throw her on every show, because it's hard to keep a knockout strong, but keep them outside of the title picture at the same time. So, but yeah, Tessa Blanchard gets a win. I really, really enjoyed the match, and there were 2 knockouts matches in a row, and the tag team match to me didn't feel out of place. There's an art to putting a card together. I thought they found the right place for that match. Because the tag team match with Macklin and EY and the system, it was good, but it wasn't like phenomenal. And especially because, like I said, it kind of had that vibe of we've seen it before. The knockouts tag right after that was perfect. And then throwing Jordan and Tessa after it was very good. Next up, we got Josh Alexander.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
Going up against Mike Santana.
That's nasty.
And this was no disqualification, no rules, anything goes, garbage match.
Garbage out of here!
I quit. This was an I quit match. They banned the Northern Armory from ringside. This is the second time they've done this. If it is a match with no rules, anything goes, how can you ban someone from ringside? Why can't they just run out? There's always a loophole, right? Like you banned Ryan Nemeth later in the night, and he, through a loophole, got back to the match. You know what I mean? Anyway, my personal opinion about this storyline. They went from 0 to 100 very quickly. I think Steve Macklin was initially penciled in for this match because if you remember, he was having a feud with Josh Alexander. The zip ties came into play in the first match. The next one ended up being no disqualification or something. I don't remember. But then they just stopped feuding. So it was 1-1. Like there was no rubber match. Shout out Zaya Brookside. There was no rubber match. They just kind of moved on. So given that this match went from like 0 to 100, these guys never wrestle. All of a sudden it's a freaking I quit match. I think this was the Steve Macklin spot, but I've said it many times. Mike Santana is the guy they want to be their world champion, and they are going to keep him as strong as possible, and beating Josh Alexander is the best way to do that. This match here, this is the best I quit match I've ever seen. It's not a stipulation I love because it's hard to find a good finish in an I quit match. The best finish ever was Rey Mysterio versus Chavo Guerrero. There's no debating that. That is the best I quit match in wrestling history as far as story and the way they ended the match. But the physicality of this match, the stuff that they did, I think was the best. Like from an entertainment standpoint and the finish, Rey and Chavo. But as far as a wrestling match, I quit match, this was it. They told a really good story in the beginning where Mike was trying to get him on the outside, like, hey, come into my world. And Josh is like, no, we're going to stay in here in my world, I kind of like the way they kicked it off like that. But some of the moves they were doing, Mike Santana constantly telling the ref, like, get out of my face. Added a lot of drama to this thing. And I was wondering the whole time, how are they going to get to the finish? How are they going to get to the finish? Because as I said, an I quit match is very difficult to book. The finish is oftentimes very cold. Just randomly I quit. Before I get to the finish here, they said we haven't had a I quit match since Willie Mack versus Moose. When the hell did they have an I quit match? He said it was Genesis, which I think it was like a TV special or TNA Plus show at the time. Willie Mack versus Moose, I quit. Like, I can't even like picture that. Clearly, Moose lost because baby faces don't lose I quit matches. But if that is the case, it's also funny to look back and be like, wow, they really had Moose Willie Mack go over on this guy in an I quit match. Like, what in the world? But there was blood. Tommy Dreamer let us know there was going to be blood in the beginning. But there was a little bit of blood. It wasn't like excessive, but it was enough to tell the story. Josh Alexander's face really looked like he was hurting. He just had like a little bit of color, but he really looked like he could not go any longer. And Mike Santana, shout out to Mike Santana. He sold that knee the entire match. There was no bullshit where he just got up and it didn't hurt anymore. He always went back to selling the knee. This was on another level of I quit matches, folks. And then at the end, he was basically going to curb stomp him face first onto the steel. And then he's like, I quit. Again, Josh's face looked like he could not take anymore. Like you actually bought him quitting. After the match, they do a handshake. Mike Santana says, be a man, shake my hand. Mike Gilbert called this on his podcast. He said this could be a paraphrasing, but he basically said it could be a double I quit match because we know that Josh is going to go away for a little bit. Again, I think it's very, very possible he could return. I don't think he is the Scott D'Amore guy that people think he is. I know Scott signed him and all that, but I remember him saying in an interview he actually doesn't have the relationship with Scott that people think that he does. It was like just more of a boss employee relationship. Like he wasn't like I don't think he was like one of the boys like Rhino and all that shit. So they shake hands after this, and Josh lets him know, this is you now. You're the man now. I quit tonight and I quit TNA, and he left. So I thought that was just a great way to write him off TV for a bit. I think the Northern Armory, as set up with Judas Icarus and Travis Williams there, I said their real names for once. I think they're going to continue as the Northern Armory. I don't think they're going to be Sinner and Saint. And I think a natural transition will be for Eric Young to take them over. Maybe it's someone else. Who knows? But the little time that they had as a threesome, the trio as Northern Armory, I think did a lot for Icarus and Williams because, if you order a sofa, those are probably the two guys that they're going to deliver it. You know what I'm saying? Like they just have nothing. They just look like two dudes, and creating the Northern Armory helped them a lot. So with Josh being gone, I think they're going to do some good things going forward, even without him. So, so Mike Santana gets a win here. We knew he was going to win. As I said, this is the person TNA wants to be the champion, and this is what had to happen in the meantime. After this tag team action, we got the Rascals.
In one word, would I use dope? Nope.
Versus the Hardys.
Wonderful. My name is Jeff.
And the Hardys always get this pop, man. Oh my God. They get a freaking pop every single time. It's freaking crazy. They're so over. And when they were with TNA the last time around, they weren't over like that. Like you're still in the impact zone in front of 200, 250 people, but it was just something about them going back to WWE, being in AEW for a little bit and then just coming back. They've just been freaking crazy over. It's wild. So I'm watching this match and I'm just thinking, man, TNA has done a very good job booking the Hardys. I watched their whole AEW run. I was still watching the company when they were there. And they did such a shitty job with them. They did a decent job with Matt by himself. Some people may disagree with that, but I thought they did okay with heel Matt Hardy. And then Jeff came on board, and you're thinking, oh shit, the Hardys are together. We're going to see something very special, and we just never did. And there was a lot of botched moves, and the matches were bad, and they looked old. They're wrestling young guys in TNA. The Rascals are young dudes, but the Hardys didn't look old wrestling them. There's just a style of wrestling in TNA that is just more logical. You're not forcing yourself to have to break your neck to pop the crowd. You tell a good story, like the crowd's going to react, So they've done a very good job with the Hardys. Obviously, you're going to put the belts on the Hardys. That's just how it is. But it doesn't feel like, oh, they're the Hardys, they're WWE. Let's, feature them. Like they're just over, You You don't have to force anything with these guys. You just got to throw them out there every once in a while, and people care. So, before this match, music hits, and forgive me, I'm gonna have to check my notes. I don't remember what the hell these guys. Faxium. They came out. And I said, "What is Sin Cara doing in the Impact Zone?" No, I'm relatively familiar with these guys, watching a little bit of NXT. So they are tag team champions. Hannafin did a pretty good job of, even though he telegraphs. My cat just knocked all my stuff over like he does every podcast. Even though he kind of gives things away ahead of time, he did a good job of letting us know that they're actually the number one contenders, the Rascals, for the NXT titles, because that made sense later in the show. Rascals one of them attempted to do a dive. I think it was Trey, took out Faxium by accident. And now we set up. The Hardys won the match. We knew the Hardys were going to win the match. So let's just get that out of the way. Hardys win. Very good tag team match. Very, very fucking good tag team match. As I said, they know how to book the Hardys. So it was enjoyable. But then they take the opportunity to announce that at the first live show, we're going to get Faxium defending the NXT tag team titles against the Rascals. So that's freaking awesome. I mean, this has already shown you guys this partnership is so much better than whatever they were doing with AEW, whatever that fucking horseshit was. Everyone was very excited about it first, and then everyone just wanted it to be over. We might get to that point with NXT too, where we just want it to be over. But from my conversations with TNA, this partnership is supposed to be mutually beneficial, and for the fans. Like, this isn't like Tony Khan saying, "Oh, you can have my guys, but my guys are going to win," you know? And then there's like no story that anyone cares about. This isn't going to be the same thing. The booking is going to benefit both sides. Is someone from TNA ever going to win NXT championship? I don't know. I don't think the Rascals are going to win the titles. It's possible. It's very possible. I don't think they are, though. I think it's more likely someone from NXT wins a TNA title before the other way around. That's what I think. But who knows? Who knows? All right. So after this, we have the Knockouts World Tag Team title. The World title match. I'm sorry, Knockouts World title. The challenger is Rosemary.
What's that? Is that Rosemary? Think? What the hell is she doing?
Versus the director of sanitation, queen of the garbage match, Masha Slamovich.
How do you like my garbage truck? This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden.
So I call her queen of the garbage match at this point because Masha has had 4 title defenses, and they're all 4 have been garbage matches. Okay. One was 2 out of 3 falls for Jordan Gray, so maybe that's not a garbage match. But everything since then has had some kind of stipulation where there's weapons and there's no rules and anything goes. And this was a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care.
So I thought this was okay. Up to this point, I'm kind of like, this is probably the worst match on the show, but it wasn't bad. It was okay. It was probably better than okay. I thought the use of the weapons was good. I didn't think it was too silly. I think they had a baking sheet tied up at one point, That kind of stuff is silly to me. What was the match that Dean Ambrose and Chris Jericho had a long time ago that they had a potted plant and all that? Like, that's silly to me. I don't like silliness in wrestling. If I were in a fight, and I've been in fights, I'm not reaching for a baking pan. I'm going to try to hit someone with it. If I hit him with it, I expect him to whoop my ass. The minute I hit him with it and it does nothing, I expect to get my ass kicked. So when they have like silly weapons like that, I'm not a fan. I'm just not a fan of weapons in matches at all. But with that being said, I thought they told a pretty good story. We knew Rosemary was going to lose. The minute Masha Slamovich showed up on NXT and teased with Corey Jade, we knew Rosemary was not going to win. We already knew she wasn't going to win. We knew she was just an opponent. They needed an opponent. It made sense for Genesis because the NXT audience knows who Rosemary is. She was on their show, so it makes sense for her to challenge for the championship here. I totally get it. Very strategic. But I thought they were relatively tasteful in the way they used the weapons. I didn't think it was too over the top. Rosemary speared Masha onto the tacks at one point and pulled him out of her hands with her teeth. I thought that was good. It fits Rosemary's character. When Rosemary went under the ring and she was looking elated, I was like, fucking Janice is under there. I don't even know if Abyss has ever hit anyone with Janice. I can't think of a time Janice has actually connected on somebody. But Janice broke in half. Janice is fake. Okay. She shoved it into Masha's back and Masha sold it like $1 million. There was no punctures, no blood, no nothing because it's fucking fake. It broke and Rosemary had to hold it by the nails and had no issues with that because it doesn't hurt. But yeah, it was the return of Janice. I'm glad that they did Clockwork Orange rather than just going to Monsters Ball or something we've seen a million times. Like at least this is not a match that is common, for the knockouts or common in TNA period. But we finally get to the point. Rosemary's first person to kick out the snowplow, but that's because now that's not her finisher. She has that package pile driver, which she did through the steel steps at the end and won the match. Incredible spot. But Rosemary kicked out of the snowplow. That has officially let us know that is no longer her finisher. I think it's a shit finisher to begin with. I don't even like the package pile driver, to be honest, but whatever. The snowplow is bullshit. It's a horrible name, too, for Masha. But she wins, and then we get music, and we have Cora Jade comes out. She is hotter than a $2 pistol. But she comes out, and we knew that this was a possibility. I expected this to happen, to be honest. She even teased it on X. Showed a picture of her on a flight. But Masha already kind of... They set something up on NXT when Masha was in the crowd. She looked at Cora, and then Cora tweeted her, "What are you looking at?" Like, we knew something was coming here. NXT, as I said earlier, has a very good women's division. They always have. So there was a lot of talent there. I mean, we've seen a couple. We saw Sol Ruka, who's incredible. Captain Hot Pants, Carmen Petrovich. I like her a lot too. They had a couple jobbers showed up, Brindley Reese and all this shit, but they have a pretty interesting women's division. So with the TNA knockouts being a little shallow at the moment, it's good that Masha's mixing it up with Cora Jade right now. Hopefully, in the meantime, the knockouts can build some kind of feuds away from the belt, because I always point out that TNA really struggles with taking two women who are not involved in the title picture and building some kind of feud and some kind of story with them. That's just not their strong point. But hopefully, if Masha is like kind of over here off to the side doing the NXT thing, much like Jordan Grace was, hopefully they can find some stories for Tessa and some of these other girls and all that. I don't want it to get to Rebellion rolls around and the Knockouts title is already Tessa Blanchard versus Masha versus Cora Jade in a three-way. Like, I don't want that. But I'm looking forward to Cora Jade and Masha. Wherever that happens, I'll check it out. I would imagine it'll probably happen on NXT. I don't think it's going to be a TNA thing, but the crossover stuff was fun, man. Like, we just knew some NXT people were going to show up, and it's fun. It's a fun partnership. I keep comparing it to the AEW one, which was just like painful. Like, it hurt our hearts as TNA fans. Like, it was just so bad. This is very, very exciting. Okay, so after this, we're getting ready to start. Masha, retains. Cora Jade comes out. Cool moment. We're getting ready to start the world title match, and we get Santino.
Sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit.
And he is with Gia Miller.
Jesus Christ, that's perfect. Of course you're here right now.
Tommy Dreamer.
I'm fat.
Dave LaGreca,
Hello, my name is Mark.
and Mark Henry.
In order to work here, you have to be the strongest man alive.
So he was asking them one by one, who do you think is going to win? Gia used a little bit of humor. That being said, I don't think this was a place for humor. We already have an issue with Joe Hendry being a very, very goofy challenger. He has done very little from the beginning of this whole thing to now to establish himself as a little bit more of a serious wrestler. So that's why someone's saying he's a meme guy. That's why I'm saying he's a mid-carder. I know in this past episode, he cut a promo, was a little more serious. We've been getting some backstory, but he still came out tonight was a goofball. You know, so I wanted to go into this a little more serious, and I think bringing in Santino is not the way to do that. But they're making their little predictions on who's going to win the match. And right before Tommy Dreamer was going to answer, we get Ryan Nemeth.
It should have been me. It should have been me.
And he is trying to get over, as a heel, he's trying to get over my brother, my big brother. I'm the little brother. You know, it's very nasally. It's very whiny, little overdone, but he's trying to get it over as his thing. So it's whatever. Santino kicks him out. He bans him from ringside. So again, it kind of means nothing because we just banned some people earlier in the night too. You know, I don't think he should do things multiple times in a pay-per-view. But he has banned Ryan Nemeth from being in the match. I understand this is Nick is his brother, but it's a babyface versus babyface match. You know what I'm saying? So, shocker, spoiler alert, he comes back because he buys a ticket. Even though the venue was sold out, the show was sold out. I guess they had one ticket left, so they lied to us. They had one more ticket, and he came in as a paying customer. So, world title time.
Oh, and I kick out.
The main event, Joe Hendry
Believe that.
takes on Nick Nemeth, the world champion.
I've been talking to people walking here. We've been talking about next year, and I'm sitting there saying, I'm not going to be here.
And this match was not very good. This match, the match that they had at Bound for Glory was not good. And you're sitting here watching the match. They're not doing a lot. They're not working very hard. These guys, I don't know if they broke a sweat at the end of the night. Then Ryan Nemeth comes out with his ticket, and it's like, here comes the fuckery. You know what I mean? Like you just know that it's coming. Give it 3 more minutes. Here comes Frankie Kazarian with the trophy. And then he walks down, and here comes John Layfield. And I said to myself, Ember, is this the same exact match as Bound for Glory? This was almost the same exact shit. And I should rewind here a little bit talking about the entrances. First of all, I was really hoping that Nick Nemeth by this point was going to establish himself as a heel. There was no heat at Bound for Glory. We had the finish, and you're thinking, okay, well, they have 3 or 4 months to build heat. Okay, so cool. I get it. We will, as the fans, were like, hey, we'll give them a pass. We'll give them a pass that the match at Bound for Glory had 0 heat. We get to Genesis, there's still no fucking heat. It's still 2 baby faces wrestling. There's a little bit, you know. Nick Nemeth did wrestle like a heel in this match for portions of it. He probably knew that he needed to. He was probably playing off the crowd. But what really disappointed me is that Joe Hendry comes out and he's smiling and he's cheesing and he's pointing out the fans and he's goofy. And I was like, yo, I don't think this guy's got it in him. If he doesn't know, I'm not saying to get away from what got him over. The singing and the silliness, like I'm not saying to completely avoid that. But if he doesn't realize that in the position he is in for this match, that he has gotten to toughen up a little bit, the story that would have been told if he would have come out not smiling and just looking pissed off and focused and serious, that would have added a completely different element to the match. But he's still doing the same shtick because that is him. He is not capable of anything else. So I'm not saying I dislike the dude, but this world title win was a great moment. He ultimately wins the match. Nick Nemeth kicks out of the standing ovation, and it's like, okay, well now Joe's gonna kick out of the danger zone. Like you just know it's all coming. That's what happens. But after the Layfield part, where no one cares about, and except the people and the fans who start chanting, "This is awesome," which was very undeserved because the match fucking stunk up to that point. Joe Hendry ultimately does hit another standing O, and he gets the win. And it was a great match. I mean, it wasn't a great match. It was a great moment. Like him finally winning the championship, going through the crowd and all stuff like that's a good moment. It is. I'm not saying it's not. But this title run the dude is just cheesy. That's just how he is. I think the fans were invested in the chase. I think his title run is going to be very disappointing. I hope that he proves me wrong. I really do. I hope that he ends up being like a great world champion for the company. I think they waited a little long to put the title on him. I mean, they can't help it that Genesis is at the end of January, or I guess the middle of January, whatever, several months from Bound for Glory. I mean, I guess they can't help it, but I'm just saying, like, it just made more sense to wait for a pay-per-view was what I'm trying to say, rather than him winning at a TNA Plus show. But it did feel like they kind of waited a little too long. The bloom might be off the rose a little bit, but we'll see. I fully expect them to be in the Royal Rumble. I think everyone does. We know TNA is going to want their world champion in the Royal Rumble. Mickey James was a Knockouts champion, right? Jordan Grace, Knockouts champion. Like, they're not just going to send someone from the TNA roster to be in the Royal Rumble. We already know that TNA likes to get their championships onto WWE television. They gave Zach Wentz that 3-week title run so that he could bring the X Division title to NXT. They like to do that. So I fully expect them. Again, it's a prediction that I think everyone predicts that he is going to be in the Royal Rumble and have the title with him. So, but we'll see. We'll see. I just thought that main event was very weak. I thought it was no better than the Bound for Glory one. It was just there's a match. I've said this. Every TNA pay-per-view has a match that is overbooked. Every single one. It is, even though they had the Clockwork Orange match and an I Quit match, neither of them were overbooked. And those are the ones that it's easy to overbook. But there's one match every pay-per-view that they just do too much, and this was it. And this match was almost no different than their Bound for Glory one. But I give this whole pay-per-view an A, not an A minus, like an A. It's hard to say A plus because that's you're telling them what they did was perfection, that everything was perfect. So I'm not going to give it an A plus, but I do give it a very strong A. The pay-per-view was very good. I think it gives them a lot of momentum going into this live episode Thursday. The crowd was engaged the whole time. They were into it, fun. Again, it looked great. It looked professional. It looked like we were watching an NXT show. Let's see how that translates to the television show on Thursday. Is it going to just go back to feeling like Impact from last year? More than likely. But, I will be very impressed if we get to the episode and it also has that same, it's not going to have the same energy because it's not going to have as many people. But if it looks some of their camera angles were different, and just if they have that approach to the show, I will be very excited. I'm going to get to the comments here for a little bit before I sign off. I'm going to scroll up here a little and just kind of go over some of these comments. Lay off the sound bites. Man, I could have swore I've blocked you from this channel, dude. No, that's what I do, man. That is what I do. And I'm going to continue to do that because that cracks me up. You know what I mean? And that's one of the things that actually motivates me to do the podcast. I've wanted to quit what I do here so many times. And, just because I've been doing it for so long and I'm kind of like ready to move on from podcasting, if I'm being honest with you. But doing stuff that pops me and cracks me up gives me motivation to continue to do this. So no, I will not lay off the sound bites. We got PCO isn't resigning with TNA due to the fact they owe him world title shot. No. Okay, so oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'm yes. I read this incorrectly at first. Scott D'Amore promised him a world title shot. I've been telling you guys this, that he promises world title matches and world title runs and all this shit, and that makes it very difficult for creative to organically go with the flow throughout the year. Slammiversary was a very, very good example. Josh Alexander turns heel on Joe Hendry, which was a great moment. Any other company would have just put the title on Josh Alexander there, and Joe would have taken the title off Josh, right? Like that's the story that makes sense. But they promised Nick Nemeth the title. No one was asking for it. No one wanted it. They had this whole angle leading up to it, like, oh, will he even be in the match? No one cared. And he won the title. And it felt really, really out of place because Scott, that's what he was doing. I promised this, promised that. Thank God PCO did not get a world title run. I don't know who the 23rd person is. I thought it was going to be Baron Corbin because my expectations are really low. My expectations are low as well. They should be for everyone not because, well, number one, TNA is not good with surprises. But number two, the person is calling out Sami Callihan. He is at the bottom of the card. This is not someone who's in, he's basically a part-timer because he works as he has a different role backstage with TNA. I don't remember what it is. So I don't think it's going to be Baron Corbin. Like, what sense does that make? I just don't think it's going to be. I would not get your hopes up. Gail Kim the GM. Make Gail Kim the GM. I did shoot a message over to TNA, and I told them Santino has run his course, and it seems like I think they want to keep him around another year. I guess that's the best way I can put it. I think they want to give him more time to see if it's a character. They're not as out on him as we are. Let's put it like that. 2018 roster was better than this roster. Like, yeah, they had a absolutely killer roster back then. They really did. That is one thing that I'll give Don Callis some credit for, is that I think he had a much better eye for talent than Scott D'Amore, because the Scott D'Amore signings were Bhupinder, Jake something. I'm out on Jake something. I just am. Bringing in the Trent Sevens, the Kashidas, like guys who people like those guys, but there's no story for them. Like, what the fuck are you gonna do with them? You know what I mean? Like, he was just bringing in guys that just were a little bland for the show. But if you look at Don Callis, he's the one that got Joe Hendry initially, got Tessa Blanchard, got Ace Austin. Some guys you can like do something with. So Don Callis has a better eye for talent than Scott D'Amore did. So yeah, back in 2018, we had some really good stuff. What else we got here? He wants JBL to be the GM, the Director of Authority. I hate that name. It's silly. It's fucking silly. It is. Santino's the worst part of the show. You love the sound bites. Very random. I know it can get a little bit. I know I got one for everybody, and it can get kind of, it can be a lot. But again, it entertains me and motivates me to do this podcast, because for those of you who've been with me for a little bit, there was the years where I said I was checking out, but like a lot of 2023 and probably the first half of 2024. No, not really. Definitely 2023. I was bored as fuck doing the podcast, and it came off on my shows. Like, I was running through the show in 30 minutes. I was half asleep doing it. Like, I was so done with it. You know what I mean? I really was trying to get on here and tell you guys, like, I couldn't do it anymore. But the sound bites popped me. So JBL is pointless. I don't get what his story is. I don't get it either. I was thinking at least here when Genesis rolled around, like we were going to get some kind of answer to this. And we're not. Like he just comes out of the crowd, randomly clotheslines someone's and leaves, and no one cares. Like, because he's not a likable character. He's not someone that like wrestling fans are asking for. Well, you know, TNA fans will usually get very excited anytime from someone from WWE comes over. They get more excited than ultimately how they feel about the person, because then that person wins a title and then they get mad. But as far as like when debuts happen from someone that you know from WWE, like TNA fans pop over that kind of stuff. But no one like wants this dude on the show. TNA will get a new title, hopefully call it the International Digital World Championship. I don't know if you're kidding or not. I hope so. And defend it on Explosion. I hope not. Yeah, I saw that JBL is going to be on Netflix on Raw. So who knows what his fucking. Ryan Nemeth, my brother is better than his Cream story on BTE back in the day. I'm not too familiar with that. Yeah, I think he said hopefully they bring in Mark Andrews and Flash Gordon because they need another tag team. I think they actually have more tag teams in TNA than we realize. It's just that the division, they don't really do a great job of booking it. It's not like horrible booking, but it's not like great either. So I think we need some new blood in there because Hammerstone's hurt, so we're not going to get him and Jake wrestling for the titles anytime soon. And if we get the fucking system in the world title picture again, I mean, people are going to lose their shit. I talked about this at the top of the show, my thoughts on a PCO incident. I don't really, as far as like him, like I don't care. Like I don't want him on the show anymore. And I've met him once before. He was very, very nice to me and my kids. Like when I say I don't like someone on screen, and it does not mean as a human being I wish the worst for them or anything. Like I'm going to say it again. I've been like repeating this a lot lately, but wrestlers are always worse after feuding with PCO. And the dude just never lost. And for what? Because now he's gone. For what? All this shit for what? But as far as him destroying the digital media championship, all for it. All for it. The main event was so WWE. It was very WWE. It was definitely a fake ticket. I'm just talking about if we're having some kind of logic. You know what I mean? That's just more what I'm talking about. Like, how did he get a ticket if it's sold out? We're just speaking from a logical standpoint. It's definitely a fake ticket. Blanchard controversy enough. You don't have to add McMahon controversy, because some people in the comments here are talking about trying to bring Shane McMahon over. It was his big brother's ticket. Yeah, they made Nick Nemeth buy a ticket. Yeah, the ticket is something WWE does. Like there's man, I say this a lot when I'm covering this company. Stop doing things just because you see WWE do them on TV. So I was watching, if you guys aren't familiar, I know women's basketball is not the most popular thing in the world. There's a new league called Unrivaled. It's a 3-on-3 league. It's a professional league, features women from the WNBA. And the format of the show of the league is so different. It's full court 3-on-3. The rules are different. Like if you foul them on a 2-pointer, the free throw counts for 2. If you foul them on a 3, the free throw counts for 3. They do think they're presenting basketball differently. Okay, than what the WNBA does. That is like what I'm trying to get across with TNA. Like present wrestling different. The fans will respect it more. The fans will be into it more if you don't do stuff just because you see WWE do it, or because you see AEW do it. Like TNA never used to do those. oh, this week we'll hear from Mike Santana, we'll hear from Joe Hendry. Like, we didn't promote interviews and backstage segments. Every blue moon, maybe, but that really wasn't a thing, you know? AEW started doing it. Now TNA is like, oh, we got to do that too. Like, dude, just present wrestling differently. The ticket thing is so silly. Man, I see the super chat here and I can't bring it up to the screen. So, Kevin, thank you very much. But he says Raw and Genesis in Dallas and Impact SD. That's San Diego. Oh, SmackDown. I'm sorry. And Saturday night's main event. He's doing acronyms here. That's why I got lost. He said Raw and Genesis in Dallas and Impact, SmackDown, and Saturday night's main event in San Antonio. Coincidence? Probably not. TNA's been doing a better job of booking their venues out like months in advance. They never did that before, right? It was always like a couple months in advance. They appear to be booking them. You know, now they have a plan now. They have a plan when it comes to this. I've been told that the wrestlers know their schedules for the rest of the year. I think, as a matter of fact, Trey Miguel said that on Twitter. He goes, hey, I got my schedule for the rest of the year. I know my dates that I'm free for indie booking. So, yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if they weren't hitting some of those same cities on purpose. Let's see what else we got here. Do you think TNA should aim a little lower for something like Ion TV? TNA would probably get nothing in the way of media rights, but it's a broadcast TV, and Ion used to carry WWE main event years ago. You know, maybe that's a door that opens for TNA. You know, like, I just need people to understand they're not going to get on USA, on Fox Sports, on TNT. Well, obviously not on TNT, but they're not getting on these big stations. It's just not happening. But the door is open for them now to have something better than Access TV. May not be like a whole lot better, but Access TV is a horrible home. It's consistent though. You know, Pop TV wasn't a great home, but Pop TV, a lot of people had Pop TV. You know, so yeah, you know, Ion TV probably doable. With the WWE rub, it's very doable. I think Kaz is going to win the belt in LA. I believe TNA wants Mike Santana to win. I'm sorry I'm stumbling on my words so much. I'm so cotton mouth. It's crazy right now. I think Kaz is going to win the belt in LA. I believe TNA wants Mike Santana to win the title in New York. It's going to be a really weird world title picture this year. Because you got Kaz, and then you got Santana, but you got Joe Hendry, who's a champion, and fans are probably going to be upset when he loses the title. Who knows who else they bring over? Who knows who they... If you sign... People are saying, well, we want Donovan Dijak and we want Baron Corbin. But if you bring those guys in, they're in the world title picture. I don't want them to be at... I think Donovan Dijak is dry as shit. Baron Corbin, I don't mind, but I don't want either of them because they're going to be in the world title picture and they're going to muddy this thing up even worse. And we're going to be hot-shotting the title all year. So that is I'm a little concerned with what they're going to do with the world title. Let's see. I am reading your guys' comments. I'm just not bringing every single one up. Moo. Yeah, Moose always saying he wants to be in the Rumble and stuff. I don't know. I've given Antonio Baker a couple here, but I'm glad I'm not the only one who's tired of singing from Joe. Now he won me over the last couple of months, but it's gotten to be too much. Like, it is what got him over. I think he should continue to do it, but I think what hurts him more is him talking before every single match. He didn't do it tonight, obviously, but him grabbing the mic and talking before every match so he could hit his zingers and one-liners. That's what's going to get real cheesy. I don't think we need to hear from him every week. So he's kind of saying also what I said, though. He's worried that the fans will turn on him real quick. That's why he needs to lose in LA, because New York, they will boo him versus Mike Santana. Joe Hendry should come out at number 1 or 2. His music isn't going to get a pop regardless. Regardless. Let's see. Production was awesome. Only good thing to say my only good thing to say about the pay-per-view, and I enjoyed the Moose match. Yeah, man, I can't put over the production even more, any more than I did. It's incredible. Rich Swann on GCW. He's done with TNA too. Look, I've already said this on the pod, but I'm going to repeat myself. Rich Swann's contract ran out at the end of the year, so it was natural for them to not renew it. But they have interest in bringing Rich Swann back. It's just the way it just worked out that way. That the contract ran up. He's still working on himself. It just didn't make sense to negotiate a deal. But Rich Swann has fans within the company. People like him. All right. So I've been told that there is a lot of interest. Now, when this whole thing happened, at first management agreed to release him, but then they changed their tune because they just they jumped the gun and said, okay, we got to get rid of him. But I'm told now that there's a lot of interest in bringing him back. It's just the time has to be right. The main event could have been way more overbooked. Thankfully, it wasn't. Yeah, it definitely could have. Yeah, Ayo, Thursday is going to be a lot of fun. That's going to be a lot of fun. That live episode. I can't wait for it. More sound bites, please. That's probably the comment from earlier is probably the only one that's been like asked me that said they're overdone. So I get it, man. Especially when there's multiple people, doing the Gia Miller thing at the end, and I'm just like rattling off 5 or 6 in a row. I get it. Believe me, I do. There's times where if someone just has a brief segment on the show, I'm not gonna be like, oh, I have to play their soundbite. Like, 'cause sometimes I understand it can get to be too much, but I tell you what, going forward, I will, when I lay my show out, I will be more mindful that then maybe it's too much. So that's one of the reasons I cut the Steve Macklin one down, because it was kind of too long. He wants more too. Let me go through a little bit more. Blue Shredder, I like that. Scott D'Amore is a mark. Yes. I'm gonna do my best to like not really talk about Scott this year, because I did a lot last year. Like, trust me, I've had conversations behind the scenes. I had a phone call the other night with someone within the company, and we talked about Scott, and like, I don't want to say Scott. I don't know if he has an NDA or whatever it is. Like, Scott's not allowed to talk bad about the company, so that's why he's been kind of baby facing himself. When he did Chris Van Vliet's show, he's like kind of nice about the company. Like, trust me, dude, Scott wants TNA to fail. Trust me. Okay. But there's just more that I wish I could say, but I can't. But I just need you to understand that they did the right thing in getting rid of him. I just need you guys to understand that. How do you think New York shows will do in such a large arena? Man, those it's scary. It is scary. Those shows are pretty big. I asked TNA what the intention was, and they said to sell as many seats as possible. So I don't think they feel that they're going to sell it out, but they're kind of shooting for the stars, to be honest. I don't think they would do it if they didn't think there was a chance they could really put some butts in seats. Especially now what we know about the WWE rub. I was told last week by TNA that we have something cool coming. Like I just knew there was a big announcement coming. I just didn't know what it was. So, very gonna be very fun. Can TNA get on Tubi? Tubi is kind of a dead platform, to be honest. They have some content, but I don't think it would. I don't know. Yeah, Delirious did book PCO for the world title, and I remember even RA. I said, I'm sorry. Delirious did book PCO for the ROH world title, yes, but I don't think the ROH fans like that very much. Do you envision new free agents sign with TNA, or are they going to run with what they have and use NXT workers? Yeah, I think they're going to be a much bigger player in free agency this year. I do. I think that we are hitting that point where AEW has some people who are very disgruntled, and now that the partnership exists between TNA and NXT, I think they have a chance at some people that they wouldn't normally before. Santino might work better doing less on-screen stuff and more behind the scenes. So I was told Santino does do things behind the scenes, and I think that's more the reason why they keep him around. He's not strictly an on-screen character. Nobody is. Everyone has some other kind of roles. So that's why it's not that easy to just get rid of somebody. But I do think the feeling within the company is that Santino is running his, like, I don't think he's going to be around past this year. I do think they believe it's going to get old, but they don't think it's old yet. Just what I said. Don Castle's a better scout. Santino's daughter, on the other hand, keep her around. Yeah, I've said a couple times on my podcast, she in person, like she's obviously very attractive on screen, but like in person, nuts. Like there's some like female wrestlers and stuff that I've met where they're prettier on TV, and then you kind of meet them in person, like, she is the complete opposite. 2016 roster was better. Was that like when they brought like Brian Cage and all those guys initially? TNA can be on Sci-Fi, Tubi. Mike Gilbert said they can't be on Prime Video during the NFL football. Prime Video is not going to cover them. If you're old, I don't want to see you in the ring. Yeah, not really my thing. Trent Seven is bland and out of shape. I didn't know that Trent Seven, when he was with NXT UK, was actually kind of skinny. Not skinny, but he was in shape, Like here, this dude got no fucking problem just committing to being fat. Feels like Don Callis looked for personality and Scott favored the in-ring workers. That's kind of how I saw it as well. Yeah, he just brought guys that just didn't have just the personality, like Scott. I mean, at least Don Callis was bringing people that just stood out. They were like no one else on the show. That's when to me, a wrestling roster is really good, when it's just like everyone's got their own individual personalities. Is it me or TNA kind of boring these days? Man, I don't think it's boring. I don't think the creative is necessarily engaging. I really think the last year was the best year in a long time. I think there's some boring episodes, yeah. I just think it's a lack of engaging storytelling. I think a lot of it's just so predictable, I kicked out of the boredom. Yeah, man. Just to kind of repeat what I was saying earlier, 2023, I was so bored with the show. I enjoyed it significantly more this year, but in 23, oh my God. I was like, this show is putting me to sleep. So I think JBL will explain his tour of the Indies. Maybe at one point. I don't freaking care. Like, I really don't. Felt like Scott hired his friends while Don looked for people that had personality. That's what happened. So, all these dudes that they're getting rid of, these are Scott guys. Rhino, PCO, Trent, Kushida. I mean, I don't want to say Trent, Kushida, or Scott guys, but I heard Giselle Shaw was making an insane amount of money. He was taking care of people. That's why he had to go. He was just he had his guys and his girls. Gail Kim can't cut a promo. That's her weakness. Yeah, man. I never thought her promos were that bad, to be honest. I know a lot of people say that about her. I never had no problem with it. Tommy Dreamer just had to be on TV because he knows he won't be on TV wrestling anymore. So he just dude had to be there. I think Gail Kim would be a much better GM. It just always feels like TNA is allergic to hot chicks on TV. And in the back of my mind, when they were getting a new ring announcer, I was like, what old fat guy is going to come out? I was like, it's probably not going to be anyone like Mackenzie. Thank God it was. Do you think they had some WWE producers working backstage? Yeah. I was explaining this to you guys that the NXT TNA partnership is so beyond just wrestling. It's a lot of it is backstage. A lot of it is, how do you guys do this? How do you present this? How do you make TV? How do you film live TV? There were production snafus last night. Don't get me wrong. Not last night, tonight, whatever. Depends on when you're watching this. There was production snafus. The audio and video did not line up. Gia Miller got on the mic earlier and it had echo. That's what happens at TNA. Yeah, from a character standpoint, they look for people who can talk. They're not looking for flip and dive. They're looking for wrestlers who can talk. She can't cut a promo. I'm not sure who you're referring to there, but Mike Bailey was another one. That was a Scott D'Amore signing. I mean, did anyone cut a worse promo in the company than him? I mean, that's why I didn't like him. I don't like people who can't talk. I just don't. I was told, by the way, you guys know I'm an Alicia Edwards fan. Scott did not like her. That's why she was used as a jobber. Never had a storyline, never had a feud. Was just kind of keeping her around to appease Eddie Edwards, but management saw something in her as when she's doing great work right now. You know what I mean? But Scott was not a fan. All right. Havoc said they're not using WWE production. They use their own. I talk to her every day when she's live on Twitch. Oh, very interesting. No. I don't think they're using WWE production, but I do believe they're working with WWE personnel and they're working with Access TV personnel. The whole staying in Orlando, then promoting shows when they would leave Orlando, they kept doing that even when they weren't in Orlando anymore. Man, I thought Moose's custom belt was great. I thought it was beautiful. I thought, man, the X Division title in general is beautiful. Like, that's the best looking title to me. So I was a little worried what he was going to do, but it was beautiful. Do you notice there was a sign guy in the crowd tonight? Yes, I did. I saw the sign. I saw some of those signs. The belt strap is meh, but at least there's gold. Yeah, it's truly a beautiful belt. Sportsnet 360, huge get in Canada. Hopefully, from a financial standpoint, yes, because the viewership has not been very good on it. Ion did wonders for the WNBA last season. It did, like, I mean, like a lot of people, most people know that Caitlin Clark was the one that got their viewership up, but even the non Caitlin Clark games did significantly better last year. And Ion actually was a very good home for them. I did watch some of the games there last year. I talked about this earlier. Could they get on Tubi? I didn't know they had wrestling content on that platform. I thought it was a dead platform. Hopefully the Hendry run is short and sweet. I think it will be. Donovan Dijak, never watched him, but I think it looks boring. Like he is. He has very little personality. He was one of the reasons I stopped watching Ring of Honor, actually, because he tried to be like a cool heel where he would just do all these, like, he was a bad guy, but he's doing all these cool moves and he's getting the fans pumped up. And I'm like, dude, what is this guy doing? But I never had any interest. But I will say the best match I ever saw in person was Dijak versus man, one of the Asian guys from Noah that TNA brought on, not Ishimori, but oh my god, I can't remember his name. His match with Dijak, I saw that in person at an indie show, and is the best match I ever seen. So Dijak can wrestle. I just don't think he's a good character. I think Trevor Lee is very overrated personally. He showed up at Maple Leaf Pro and the fans did not care at all in the audience. I think he's very, very overrated. I thought he was when he was with TNA the first time. You know, like I didn't see anything in his matches that people claim that existed. I'm open to Moose's X Division championship run. I really am. I just think it needs to be a little more dominant than it is. I thought Rich Swann in First Class was very good. I thought when he was the world champion, I think he's an example of what we can see with Joe Hendry, because I think Rich Swann needed to change his gimmick up a little bit once he became champion, and he didn't. Like, you can't take a mid-card gimmick into the world title. You know what I mean? Like, you have to switch something up. We're going to get a... Yeah, I already talked about a few times about PCO smashing the belt. So I know we don't want to see TNA belts get destroyed, but it's a digital media championship, so I'm cool with that. I think Tessa is most likely signed. Kind of the conversations I've had with TNA is that they think that the story that was spread about her being racist, and they think it's very, very overblown. They say what was reported was not what happened at all. I liked Mackenzie Mitchell on the stick. I think Jade got really good over time. She was a little weak at the beginning, like when she was doing Explosion and stuff, but she got pretty good. Mackenzie Mitchell didn't sound as good as Jade, but I thought she did a good job. And I think she'll get better with time. I thought a couple of the announcements, I thought her voice was too deep. And I'm like, girl, you way too hot to talk like that. I would have been very happy with San Laterna as well. You know, she's hot. She's a great backstage interviewer. She's a little nasally as a ring announcer and makes like real funny faces. So I kind of didn't want her, but I would have been okay with her. Yeah, AO says, you know, I love how despite the NXT advertising, this was a TNA heavy show. They had a really good balance, man, of like, you just knew it was a TNA show. It wasn't desperate for attention. Like, oh, here's NXT and WWE people, like, pay attention to us, which in the past, TNA's advertising always come out very desperate. That's why I don't like the social media strategy. This Garrett Kidney goof playing these old clips. Like, it's very desperate. And I don't like that. So I don't, you know, they very, very, very good balance tonight. Who would I like to see it bringing in a sign in 2025? There's a lot of people, the AEW roster not being used. and they're the wrestlers I like from the company. So that's one of the reasons I stopped watching them, because the people who I like, they don't use. Like I would love like Colt Cabana. Ricky Starks would be amazing, but I don't think that's a possibility. Yeah, I would love to see Ortiz come back, but I know that's not going to be a thing. Anyone from their women's roster I would like. I actually really like their women's roster. I don't think they're as bad as people say. There's some real talented women on the indies that I just really want to see them get a hold of and really give a chance to. But I'm all for them signing anyone who looks like a star. Like I don't like people who look like you and me. Like when it looks like we're on screen or we're wrestling, like that I'm just not into that. You know, I like people who got some size and look like stars. So I don't know. I can't. There's not a whole lot of names that I can say. Oh yeah, I want to see this person, but there's some people out there. Thoughts on a production? I thought it was good, but what are your thoughts? I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was absolutely beautiful. I had nothing bad to say about it. And you guys know I've been so critical about the production. And if you're one of those people who think that I was very over the top on my critiques of the production, I implore you to pull up any episode from 2023 and just watch it. After you've seen they've had improved production quality this entire year. Couple snafus, but for the most part, very good. Pull up something from 2023 and tell me that I wasn't, spot on what I said that the show looked like shit. This is a good point here. I like the partnership with NXT, but I want people to actually sign with TNA. Yeah, I think every TNA fan wants that. Like we want people who are going to be committed. We like the partnership for the sake of that it's going to freshen things up, but we don't want it to dominate the show. And we don't want all of the TNA titles to be on NXT television. We don't want every time they wrestle TNA to lose. Like that's definitely what we don't want. So hopefully it's just like the way NXT, what I was told, views this partnership is they want to use the TNA wrestlers to enhance their product. They don't need the viewership. You know what I mean? Like TNA, it's not going to bump their viewership up, but they want to freshen their show. And I think that's how TNA has to approach it. I think they have to approach it like, hey, we want to use these people from NXT to make our show feel different and feel fresh and not feel like you're watching the same people in the same matches over and over. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I think they need to approach it rather than, oh, let's make sure our title's on NXT and this shit. Like that is the wrong way to go about it, in my opinion. They need more knockouts. I think there's a chance we might see some, hopefully. I believe they signed that Maggie Moore chick that was a jobber a couple times last month. I believe she is coming on board. I don't mind Santino when they made him director of Authority. I thought it'd be fine, just as Anthony Corelli. I agree. I would have been perfectly fine with him just come out and he just stands out like a sore thumb. Okay, I asked this question earlier. What was the roster 2018? Oh no, I think he said 2016 was a good year. 2018, that was Cage, Austin Aries, Rich Swann, Sammy. Yeah. EC3 Hardy era was 2016. Yeah, I'm an idiot. I think that's actually when I started watching, actually podcasting. I like that roster. That was a fun roster. EC3 is, man, you would be hard pressed to find a bigger EC3 fan than me at one point. He is so washed. If you watch him on NWA, I like NWA, so I still watch it, but I mean, the dude is just washed. It is rough. Got a super chat again. Kevin. Thank you. How do you build the knockouts division with Grace gone and Tessa locked in? That division is very lackluster. Masha and Rosemary did not impress me. So Masha and Rosemary was better than I thought it was going to be, but it was my second to least. So it goes without saying, the main event was my least favorite match on the show. This was my second least favorite. But again, I've said it many times. I hate garbage matches. I hate weapons. No disqualification. No countouts. No rules. Because the matches are fake. You know what I mean? If there's no rules, I can get in the ring and beat someone. I promise you. But because it's fake, I'm not saying wrestling's fake, but the rules are fake. The stipulations are fake and they're phony, and the weapons aren't real weapons. I just can't buy it. I can't get into that stuff. Because if they're real weapons, you're going to win the match. You just need one, and you're going to win the match. Like if I got a steel chair and I just beat someone relentlessly in an I Quit match, they will quit. Any wrestler, they will quit within 30 seconds, you know? But as far as how do I build the knockouts division, they're doing a better job this time around. I've repeated this so many times that when they lost all these knockouts going into 2024, like at the end of 2023, they had no game plan. I think they thought Ash was going to be bigger than she was. I think Xia Brookside did what she was supposed to do. I don't think she underwhelmed at all. But it was a really rough year for the knockouts. I think they probably expected Kylan King to take a huge step. I think they probably expected Killer Kelly to be a big deal. I don't think they're happy that Killer Kelly got pregnant. That is my opinion of me just trying to read between the lines with some of the things I've been told a little bit. I really like her and I hope that she comes back, but the vibe I get is that they're very upset that she got pregnant. Now it's her life if she wants to get pregnant, you know. But I mean, it happens like in the WNBA too, where sometimes one of the star players on the team gets pregnant, she's out for the season, and it's kind of like, well, we're happy for you, but now we fucking suck. You know what I mean? So they really needed Killer Kelly this year. She could have had she had a very good, that was the last good knockouts feud that didn't involve the championship, was Killer Kelly and Masha. And then they became a team. And I think them splitting and having a feud again would have been very special. They're married to each other. It could have been one of those few feuds that we could watch them wrestle many times and been okay with it. But how do I build this? I think Tessa, again, I think you got to make her a special attraction a little bit. I would not overexpose her, because if you do, she's going to run through the roster very quickly, and then you're going to put her in a match with Masha for the title much sooner than you need to. And then you're going to be in a lose-lose situation, because you're like, do I beat Tessa or do I beat Masha? And neither of them need to be losing for the next half a year. So the thing is, if you're not paying Rhino all this money and Kushida all this money, there's more money available. And the women are not as expensive. And there is so much talent out there for the ladies. And I bring up NWA a lot. I always circle around to the NWA women's roster. And you go up their roster, you see the Page sisters. Well, Ella Envy just left, but TNA could probably get her. You see Miss Star. You see La Rosa Negra. You see Ruthie J. You see the King Bees. You see Taylor Rising. You see Natalia Markova. And you're like, fuck, man. Like, they just up and down have these women that they just pulled out of obscurity. There are chicks out there that you can bring on, and you can very easily make this division worth a shit. These are not like expensive. You know, usually the way I think TNA does their contracts, I think they usually take, it's like, say a wrestler's indie rate is $200. I think they'll pay him like $400 to $600. You know, they'll usually like double or triple their indie rate. So that's where you run into a problem with the Rhinos of the world and shit. You know what I mean? Because those guys are already making a lot for their indie rate. But then when you start saying, okay, we're going to multiply it by 3, then it's like, yo, that's a lot of money to spend on Rhino or spend on Trent 7, or a lot to, you understand what I'm saying? So now that they're going to be smarter, I hope that they just put more effort into this division. But I mean, I keep saying it. There's talent out there who can talk, who have a good look, who are, fairly TV ready. You know, someone like Heather by Elegance. There's a lot on that level. You just got to give them an opportunity. I think TNA has a hard time giving opportunity. I think they like to sign people who are already a finished product rather than like NXT. I mean, NXT, NWA will sign someone that, okay, we see something in this person. Let's try to develop them. And I don't think we get that commitment to development in TNA. But if they can commit, sign some of these women that are in the indies and just commit to developing them, I think we can have like a super strong knockouts division before you know it. But they have to find they cannot fall into a trap again where Masha Slamovich has to have open challenges for a year and wrestle jobbers and wrestle people, from NXT just for the sake of defending the title. Like you have to build up more people just at the end of the day. So I just think they need more bodies. They have more knockouts than we give them credit for. Like it always feels like they only have 4 or 5. Just the way it comes across on TV. They have more than that. But I do think they just have to beef up the roster a little bit. If you say, hey, we're going to carry 12 knockouts at all time, like carry 16. Just beef it up just a little bit. Gailkin is hard at recruiting. She's very picky. That is what I was told. This kind of goes back to what I just said, Kevin. That I was told she's extremely picky because she really, like the name Knockout means something to her. You know what I mean? Looking at that picture you've got of Zaya, I feel like she would fit better with Ash than Heather does. I think Heather fits perfect. I think she does. I'm very big on Zaya Brookside, though. I think I don't think she can be Knockouts champion, but I just think she's such an excellent babyface. Impact Lounge Brace for Impact collab for Thursday. I don't know if that's going to happen Thursday, but we are looking at that as an option. We're going to see if we're able to stream on both channels. We're just going to grab a few more here. All right, you're the second person to say this. X Division title has a mustache on it. I'm going to have to look again because I've not noticed. Thank you, Critical Sting. Marufuji was who I was talking about. He had a match with Donovan Dijak when I was living in Illinois at the local promotion, and it was just incredible. So he's just a great wrestler, but no character, no personality. And yeah, TNA obviously needs that Caitlin Clark type of star. People asking, I keep getting multiple what I think about Mackenzie Mitchell. I thought she did a solid job. I think she will get better over time. If you guys remember, Mackenzie Mitchell as a backstage interview was very not good. For the first 6 months, she was worse than Gia Miller. Gia Miller got a lot better too. When Gia Miller first started, she was awful. She got pretty good over time. And Mackenzie was like that as a backstage interviewer. And I think as a ring announcer, I think she did okay tonight. But I think as we continue, she's going to get a lot better, just like Jade got a lot better over time. Su Yung she is not in wrestling shape. I know she wrestles on the indies. She's not in wrestling shape. I don't know if we're ever going to see her again. Mackenzie did a great job. I really don't pay attention to ring announcer outside of Samantha Irvin. Who's the best? You're asking who I think is the best in Reese? I'm not sure what you're asking. The best ring announcer is the Ring of Honor dude. You said Tubi's more popular than Disney Plus. I must be out of the loop. I was pretty sure that was a dead platform, but I guess I'm wrong. Let's see. We're just gonna grab a couple more here. It'd be cool if Ali came back. Man, I really want Ali to come back. Kevin asked earlier about building up the division. I would bring her back in a heartbeat if you could. I used to have a decent relationship with Ali, but last time I saw her, she did not recognize me or know who I was. So it had been, I mean, I was on a DM basis with Ali. I actually helped her build her YouTube channel when she first started a channel, The Wonderful World of Ali, or whatever the hell it was called. And I helped her with her channel early in the day. So I actually had a pretty good relationship with her. Because again, I had a DM relationship with her. Like I could message her. She messaged me once. She messaged me on her own a couple times. But last time I saw her, which was April of last year, she had absolutely no idea who I was. And I was like, we used to have a relationship, girl. I don't it was just really weird. I tried to remind her and she was like completely clueless. I don't consider her I never consider her like a friend like I do Allison Kay or like Marty Bell, but we knew each other. I would love to see her back. Lucky Charm, he makes a point. More signings like Leon Slater for the men and women. Like Leon Slater, I don't even know how TNA got this dude, honestly. They have never signed anyone with this much upside I won't say never, but just in a long time, TNA would have been wonderful for Camille. Between Camille and Tessa Blanchard, you could really take over Jordan Grace's spot. You know what I mean? That's why when I talk about, they didn't prepare for these departures. You sign Zaya Brookside, you bring in Ash, but who's your Mickey James replacement out of those? Who's your Trinity replacement out of those? Who's your Deanna replacement out of those? You don't have, you know what I'm saying? So, Jordan Grace gone. Hey, Tessa Blanchard's that replacement. You add a Camille on top of that. Now you're doing some work. Maggie Moore can be a next Charlotte Flair. I don't know. I didn't think she was that good, but she was in a jobber role. So Jada Stone. I hope Jada Stone is the follow. I thought she was a little reckless out there. I also find Trinity to be reckless. So I don't know. But yeah, people seem to like her when she came on. Maggie Lee, hoping they signed her the way that she tweets about TNA. I'm pretty sure she is. I'm pretty sure. They just haven't announced it because it's not really that big of a deal. And there's so many, you're not going to say we partner with NXT and then the next week be like, hey, we signed Maggie Moore. That makes no sense. So I think once we kind of hit I don't want to call it a lame duck period, but once we hit a certain period where it's okay, we don't have any news. Hey, we signed Maggie Moore. You know what I'm saying? So, no, EC3 was trying to do the control your narrative, but it bombed. And then when he lost Killer Cross and Braun Strowman back to WWE, he didn't have any more partners or anyone to work with. So he tried to bring control your narrative to NWA, but it kind of bombed. Right now he has a gimmick again that he has a cult with him. So it's he keeps trying to go back to that control your narrative thing. 2016 had Jay Bradley types because of Billy. Man, Jay Bradley is in this tag team on NWA, and I couldn't be less of a fan of them. The Fixers. I could not be less of a fan. They stink. I was hoping they'd sign Megan Bain, but yeah, that wasn't going to happen. The Miracle was great. What happened to Rockstar Spud? I think he's just still working behind the screen with TNA. Savannah Evans and Kylan King need to be next up. But did I say Rockstar backstage in TNA, backstage in WWE? I'm super high on Kylan King, folks. Like I knew who she was before TNA got her. She's one of those people, like I said about Ariana Grace. She is gorgeous in real life, Kylan King. I don't. It doesn't really come off on screen, but if you like meet her in person, you're like, God dang, you know. Um, I I was told Savannah Evans was repackaged, and I guess she was to an extent, but then she lost in 4 minutes last week. So um, love to see La Rosa Negra come to TNA, have her back up Tessa. She's pretty good, man. Like it would be cool to put her with Tessa Blanchard. That would just be very interesting. But yeah, she's pretty good. They got another girl, NWA Ruthie J. She, someone mentioned earlier like a young Trinity. She's like a Trinity mixed a little bit with like MJ Jenkins, you know. What about Heather Monroe? She's trashy hot. I'm a big fan of trashy hot. Um, I was hoping they were going to bring her on a while ago. Actually, I think, man, she's actually a good example of someone who would really fit onto the TNA brand very seamlessly. That hasn't done like a whole lot of TV work rather than being a jobber, but like she would fit very well. Yeah, NWA is not the same anymore. They just they do some good things. It's not all bad, but yeah. Lindsay Snow has the X factor. If she's who I'm thinking of, I remember her being pretty hot. I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah, and Derek is right here. Like we do want to see them sign. It doesn't have to just be chicks, you know what I mean? But like that's what I'm saying. That Leon Slater really stands out because they never sign people with that kind of upside and potential. Someone that young and they don't get a hold of that kind of talent. So he's someone that people are going to be really invested in because hopefully the company is building him and developing him. But we want to see like more of that. I'm like that with sports. Um, Man, is one of the reasons that when I was growing up in California, I really liked the Clippers as opposed to the Lakers because they weren't as good, obviously, but they used to, they'd pick higher in the draft, but the player development was so much more important as opposed to the Lakers, who were just kind of signing all these old established players, and that wasn't fun for me. I want to see this guy start from here and get up to here a couple years later. Like that's fun. Yeah, I think the Killer Kelly breakup with Masha was supposed to turn into something, and they have to wait. I thought that Killer Kelly was pregnant on screen. That's why they broke up, or they didn't break up, but they kind of like teased a breakup, and then they lost the title in like 2 minutes. But she was not pregnant. I think it was a punishment for Killer Kelly for something happened with her in the company. Gia Miller and her fake country accent is annoying. I don't think it's a fake accent, but I do not like her accent. Um, when she is being natural, when she's on stage, I don't hear it, but when she's backstage, I hear it too much, and I don't really like it. I like Zaya. She could be more in Spiley, happy-go-lucky babyface. I think she has it in her, but she just hasn't had much of a storyline that she could sink her teeth into. I don't know who Janai Kai is. Yeah, Sue Young is hurt. I don't know what she did, but she's hurt. Yeah, I got a couple. I hope TNA, Allie comes back. I hope she does too. Allie has some real mental health issues. Allie is hot. Yes, she is. Yes, she is. Mr. TNA Impact Guy, they feature on the front road as a podcast called TNI. Yeah, the TNI guys they filled in for me at one point when I had my own mental breakdown. It wasn't a mental breakdown, but I got burnt out back in 2018, 2017 or something. I went dark on you guys for a while. What about Nixon Newell? That would be a good signing. I think she has injury problems, right? Liana Cross, 6'1", from Australia. That sounds intriguing. Yeah, Savannah, she cut that promo a couple weeks ago. Dude, honestly, I think she cut that promo with Gina Miller backstage, and I think the company was like, yo, this isn't going to work. You know, like she barely spoke, and it was very bad. Yeah, Savannah Evans definitely needs a mouthpiece. Do I like MLW Lucha product? I've wanted to give them a shot. I've watched a couple of MLW episodes and haven't liked it very much. I wish I would have got into it when old girl Katrina was on for a little bit because I like her, but I haven't given it the chance. I probably should. I don't have a whole lot of time for wrestling. I'm like the worst wrestling podcaster in the world because I don't like wrestling. Yeah, I've heard about this Riho chick, not the AEW girl, but I've heard of who you're talking about. I don't know who it is though. All right, this is the last one I'm going to hit because I really need to go to bed. TNA needs a new developmental program that's better than Gut Check. Gut Check is a scam competition. I DM someone who's won the Gut Check contest and just very frustrated with how things have gone for them since and opportunity or lack of opportunity. You know, it's a scam competition. I'm so done with it. MLW sucks at. Yeah, Riddle's a champion. And then yeah, shout out to everyone hanging out for you Eastern time zoners. I was Central time zone for a while. Like this is late for me on Pacific. Thank God I have the holiday off tomorrow. Take care, B. Clippers beat the Lakers tonight. Excellent. I actually threw $50 on the Clippers. What's funny is I genuinely get a headache from watching the Clippers and Lakers play because I like really despise the Lakers. So Laker fans will joke like if we beat them, it's our championship. Like it actually is. You know what I'm saying? I'm all about that, man. I just want to beat them. But when we lose, I get like sick. You know, I really hate losing to them. They should go get Maria. Yeah, dude, Maria, definitely. Hotch, probably the most successful Gut Check winner in history. I think so. Okay, literally, these really are my last two. They need to bring up back knockouts, knockdown, 100%, and the old format too. The old format was fun. Do you think they should go after Maria? 100%. You can find a role. Maria's so talented. Like you can find a role for her. She doesn't have to wrestle, but you got to find something. So, all right, folks, that is really going to do it for me. I'm going to check out because I actually need to get up early in the morning, take care of some business. So we will chat again soon. And Derek, I will find a way to keep those sound bites in check a little bit. Talk to you guys soon. Peace.